just have the home page content animate in. So now when we test our movie by hitting Control Enter or Command Enter if you're using a Mac, we'll see the home page fade in, and then we can click on our buttons and our buttons work just fine. But we want all of our pages to fade in when we click on them. So we need to add even more to our timeline. So we're going to do this for the About page too. We're going to highlight everything from the About page all the way over. Once it's all highlighted, we're going to drag it over to about frame 30 here. Okay, now since we've done that, we need to extend out the frames for our buttons and menu bar. And we're going to have to extend them out quite a bit. So let's go ahead for now and just go out to the end and hit F5 to insert frames for those two layers, for the menu bar layer and the buttons layer. So now those two layers are visible all the way up to almost to frame 90 now. We might need to extend that or get rid of some of that later, depending on how long our timeline ends up extending. So we have our About page here on frame 30. Well, we want it to take the same amount of time as our home page, and our home page went from frame 1 to frame 10. So our About page is going to go from frame 21 to frame 30. So we'll click on frame 30 for the content layer to select that keyframe, and then drag that keyframe back to frame 21. Now with that keyframe in frame 21, we'll click on frame 30 and hit F6 to add a new keyframe there. So in frame 30, our About Us movie clip is fully visible. So we'll jump back to frame 21, click on our movie clip, change color from none to alpha. And now since we've already dragged the alpha slider down the last time we made these transformations, it should be automatically down to 0. If not, then we'll just drag the slider down to 0 again. So in frame 21, it's invisible. In frame 30, it's fully visible. Now we'll just right click anywhere between those two keyframes and click on Create Motion Tween. And now we see that one's fading in as well. Now we have a problem. In order to get this to work, in fact, let's go ahead and test our movie to show you what the problem is. If we hit Control Enter to test, we go to our home page, but now when we click on the About Us page, it just jumps straight to the About Us page. Because remember, what we're doing is in our action script, we're telling it that when we click on this About Us button, we want it to go to and stop the frame labeled About. Well, right now the frame labeled About is here in frame 30. What we want to do is we want to go to and play frame 21 here. So we're going to change the name of this particular, or we're going to change the location of the About frame. We're going to click on that to select it, click on it again, and drag it back to 21. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to go to and play frame 21, or go to and play the frame labeled About. So it'll play here, but if we don't add a stop action in frame 30, this is just going to keep going on and on and on. Okay, so since we need to create a few stop actions, I'm going to create a separate actions layer for that. So I'll create a new layer, drag it underneath the actions layer, and I'll just call this layer Stop. That way we'll be able to visibly see that our stop actions are on their own layer, and all the rest of our actions are going to span the length of all of our pages. We also need to move our home page label. Our home page is not going to be out here at the end of the animation. Our home page is going to start when it starts fading in. So we'll click on that frame for the labels layer. We'll drag that over to frame 1. And we have our stop action in frame 10, but now we want our stop actions to be on this separate layer. So let's lock that stop layer. Click on frame 10 for the stop layer. Hit F9 to open up your actions. Actually, first, we need to create a keyframe there. Don't forget that. Hit F6 to create a keyframe, and then F9 to open your actions, and then we'll type our stop action. Okay, so now we can go up to our actions for the actions layer and get rid of the stop action there. That way we have all of our stop actions on one layer. Okay, so our stop action for the About page is going to be at the end of that animation when it finishes fading in. So when that finishes fading in here in frame 30, we'll click on frame 30 for the stop layer. We have to hit F6 now to create a new keyframe there, and then with that new keyframe selected, we'll hit F9 to open up our actions, and we'll type in our stop action. Okay, so now we just need to do the same thing for the contact and products page.